Chris McClendon.
Yes, sir.
How did you get into cooking?
I got into cooking because I grew up in a house with two sisters. And honestly, man, like for as long as I can remember, I've always loved the idea of love. I've always, literally, since I can remember, since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to have a family and a wife and kids, and even when I was a little kid. So like, I've always been very fascinated and fixated with women. So like, I grew up in a house with two older sisters. So you got two older sisters and all of this young man testosterone, and these girls coming over. I would do anything to impress them. So I would sing, do poetry, straight up. I would do poetry. I would cook, whatever. So it was this gentleman by the name of Billy who worked at the store I used to be a bottle boy for. He used to work at like the Pontchartrain or something. He's like a line cook or something like that, but he called himself Chef Billy.
Okay.
So I would ask him little recipes like, yo man, my sister got some friends coming over, tell me something to do, and he would like tell me a little dish or something like that. So I would go home and make it, and my sister's friends would be like, okay girl, your little brother know how to cook. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. So from that perspective, it was like, all right, well, maybe now I know there's something I know how to do to get closer to women's heart, So I just started like working on it. And then from that perspective, I started really, I've always been an artist, and as long as I can remember, I've always done things that were very artsy. Yeah. But it's always been for the good of affecting people in a positive way. So if it was cooking, it was because I wanted people to eat it and feel like, man, it was the best I ever had, or whatever. Or if it was, being a class clown, or whether it was singing to girls or rapping or whatever, I always wanted to affect people with my art. Yeah. So I just saw an avenue for me to express myself artistically with some form of art. And, there was times when I was doing acting and cooking simultaneously because I really wanted to be an actor too. But the cooking just stuck, and, I've been afforded an opportunity to meet a great mentor, gentleman by the name of Chef Shawn Loving. He's one of 2 African-American master chefs in the world. And he took me under his wing when I was a kid. Yeah. I was probably 19, 20s.
So how old were you when you started?
Like cooking seriously?
Cooking? No. Like when you were cooking for your sister's friends and all that, how old were you?
10, 11,
wow.
12.
Okay. And then at 20, you met your mentor, or before that, what age were you when you met your mentor?
Well, I was cooking, just rinky-dinking around the house, and then right around like 18, my dad opened up this small mom and pop's takeout spot called Max All-Star Catering. Okay. And we ran it out of the old WC3 campus on the northwest side off of Joy Road in Greenfield. Yeah. And we basically rented out their cafeteria. We opened up a soul food spot, and I worked with my dad. And my dad's a very good cook. And my dad used to just teach me how to do it so he didn't have to do it. So he would show me how to do everything, and, I took hold to it. Now, mind you, at this point, I'm 17, 18. Yeah. And shortly after that, I said, maybe I should... My girlfriend's father at the time strongly suggested that the acting thing is cool, but if you're going to date my daughter, you probably need to have a job. Yeah. So I said, all right, no problem. And he got me enrolled at Schoolcraft College and was like, I got a lot of faith in you, kid. I think that you have the tools to be successful. And he was the first one to really believe that I could be a chef. It was my girlfriend's dad. And he was like, I know you don't have the money for school. I'm going to pay for the prerequisites to actually get into the program. Wow. And I was like, cool. So fast forward, go to culinary school, and he takes me to, it's a baseball player that played for the Tigers named Randall Simon. Yep. Randall Simon they had an endorsement or something with Comcast. Therefore, he did business with my girlfriend's dad. So he ended up having a good relationship with us and took us over to his place. He lived off of he lived in the riverfront places. So took us to his place, met him and his wife. I just remember his wife being the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. And us talking and him like, yeah, man, if you become a chef, you might want to be my chef one day. And that was the first thing that got a spark in my head, like, wow, I might be able to cook for athletes one day. So put a pin in that. And then he's like, no, man, you honestly, you should get into this culinary thing. You know, I'll reach out to somebody that I know. She works for Food Network. Her name is Kathleen. She has a show called Cook It Thin with Kathleen on Food Network. And you should talk to her. So he puts me on the phone with her, and she's like, you need to go to the school called Schoolcraft. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, I'm into the program. Blah, blah, blah. I'm doing great. And I remember going to Sinbad's with my girlfriend, her father. And I remember saying to her, like, one day I'm gonna be able to walk into a restaurant and people will know, like, oh, that's Chef Chris because of the work that I do. And then she was like, yeah, that's a dream, that's a dream, da, 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 da. And that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Fast forward 15 years, she's a teacher in New Jersey. She DM'd me on Facebook and said, Chris, I can't believe that your dream came true. And I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, all the way in New Jersey, some friends of mine are like raving over your restaurant in Detroit.
Dope.
Saying that they can't believe that the food was so good, and oh my God, they're gonna bring their family down to take a trip to Detroit just to come to your restaurant, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, wow, I'm flattered. She was like, I remember when you made that statement, one day people are gonna know me for my food, and I'm just very proud of you, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Tell your dad to hit me up because it was because of him that it was possible. He believed in me first. So he hit me up and was like, hey, I'm gonna be in the city in the next month or so doing this, her mother has MS, so he does these MS bike rides all across the country.
Yeah.
And he was in the city, and we ended up not being able to link up because I had a really busy weekend, and he was all the way. He wasn't in the city. He was like in Jackson, Michigan, or something like that, like super far away or something like that. But we social media, we text here and there, and we follow each other on social media. So yeah, he's still around, and you know, I'm very fortunate to have met him because he really changed my perspective on what was possible for me because he put me around celebrities. He put me around Herman Moore and these celebrity houses, so I kind of was already tempered to it. So by the time I actually got the opportunity to do it, I wasn't being starstruck and bugging people and acting people. He showed me how to conduct myself around these athletes and entertainers and stuff like that. So it really helped me a lot.
Who was your first celebrity client that was your own, that you went out and got, or that heard about you, and you know?
Well, honestly, a huge part of my career came through the funnel of my mentor, Chef Loving, because he is the chef for the Olympic team, the basketball Olympic team.
Yeah.
At the time, he was cooking for Rip. He was cooking for Chauncey. He was cooking for LeBron. He was cooking for so many people. So, I mean, he's only one man. And, you know, I'm his right-hand man. So every time it would be a situation to where he didn't have the bandwidth to take care of a client, it would be like, well, just call Chris, Chris. And then I started getting a reputation because I would knock clients out the park. And then I started getting my own personal buzz. And I would probably say the first person that, when I got them, it was like, okay, this is my client, was probably Eddy Curry. Okay. But prior to then, I cooked for so many different people. I cooked for Allen Iverson for a little while. I cooked for just a bunch of different athletes. But I would say Eddy Curry was the first client that I took ownership of and was like, okay, this is my guy.
So you grew up, and we'll go back to that, but you grew up in this family where you saw Black business ownership.
Yeah.
How did that kind of affect your perspective on entrepreneurship? Most Black kids don't see that growing up.
Absolutely.
What did that do for you in getting into this career?
I think that it did a great thing for me from a perspective that I've always seen it from a owner's perspective. Like I never, from the time I started working, really saw work as a paycheck. I've always looked at it as a means to an end. Or not a means to an end, but a means to a greater cause. So like when I was the bottle boy at the meat market, my thought was always, so I'm gonna knock this out the park so that I can run the meat counter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run the meat counter so that I can start doing the seafood orders. I'm gonna start, like, it was always like, okay, and then eventually I'll be the store manager. And once I become store manager, then I'm gonna approach them about maybe being part owner. Like, it was never like, I'm gonna just get this check, get a couple dollars raised, and then, because my dad, for as long as I could ever remember, if he's ever had a job, he's either started as the boss or became the boss. I've never seen my dad just be an employee, ever. I've never, ever seen it. So, like, it's just natural for me to be that way, too, because I don't know no other way to be except for, not necessarily a boss, like, to be a dictator to people, but just to have the mentality of, like, ownership.
Leadership.
You know, leadership. You know what I'm saying? And because that's all I saw, you know, that's kind of how I operate. And I've been like that since I was a little kid. Not to mention that one of my first entrepreneur endeavors was cutting grass. So this is kind of how it started. I've always been a social person. I've never been afraid to communicate with people, to talk to people, because my dad has always been in the forefront talking to people. So just inherently, I just had a ability to speak to people. And my friends don't really have that same background, so they didn't want to communicate with anybody. They didn't want to talk to people. So we all had the thought process to go cut grass, but nobody wanted to actually go knock on the doors and cut grass.
Make the sales.
So I said, all right, well, this is what we'll do. Y'all wait here. I'll be back in 2 hours. And I literally just knocked on doors for 2-3 hours straight.
Yeah.
They had this whole list of people that I talked to. And I said, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. I charge them $10 a pop. Y'all going to give me 3, y'all take 7. You know what I'm saying? That's what we doing. Yeah. Y'all don't have to talk to nobody. You just show up, cut the grass. I get the money. I give you your 7. For every grass you cut, I give you $7.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were like, so I don't got to talk to nobody. Nope. You just pull up or walk up, cut the grass, walk off. You good to go. And at the end of the day, I'm going to hand you bread.
That's fire.
So between seeing my dad do it and me doing it for myself, I never at any point in my life, looked at a job as a job. I always looked at it as a means to have ownership of something.
Yeah. So from 10 years old, you're cooking. At 20, 21, you get Eddy Curry as a client. How'd that happen?
Eddy had got the big contract, and if you know history behind Eddy Curry, he when he was in Chicago, he was like, you know, doing well, and he was up for a big contract, and then they tried to. He had some injury, and I don't know what the injury was. I don't want to misquote, but they gave him some medicine to deal with the injury, and the injury sped up his heart rate. And he was complaining to the team doctors like, yo, this medicine y'all giving me making my heart like speed faster when I play, like it just really makes my heart race. So then they did some testing, and then they tried to pin a heart condition on him so that other teams wouldn't give him that max contract so that they can retain him. That's the story. So fast forward, they end up giving him a big contract in New York anyway. He takes the big contract, but also while he's going out there, he's just showing the team, I'm getting a chef, I'm getting myself together, I'm gonna be in super good shape. And as long as I was his chef, he was in great shape. He didn't start picking up weight until after I left, and then it was like, you know, he kind of got a little bigger.
And you were in New York at the time? You were in Chicago? Where were you at?
I was in New York. I was living here in Detroit. He got the contract in New York. He was in New York for a couple of months ahead of me, and then he had me come down. I came down right before Christmas. I remember my mom died in October, and it was right after my birthday. My mom had passed away, and I remember they wanted me to leave like right when the season started, which around October-ish, but I couldn't leave my mom. And then after she passed, I wasn't in the right mind state. So we waited till about like first or second week of December. I ended up flying out to New York, and then it was history from there. So you know, and then I rocked with him for probably like a good 5 years, 5 seasons after that.
So what does that look like? You rubbing, you know, shoulders with celebrities and cooking for these guys, and you know,
it was great.
Really helping them, give them the fuel to be who they are.
Yeah, man, it was great for me. It gave me perspective.
What perspective did it give you?
That money don't make people happy. Because I'm seeing all of these rich young men miserable, like everybody I know back home, for the same reasons people miserable back home, and the money didn't fix it. And once I realized that, it freed me from the need of feeling like money will fix my problems, and if I didn't have it, I was feeling hopeless. It gave me hope that, man, well, maybe it ain't the money that's the fix. Maybe it's up here that's the fix. So once I started like looking at it from that perspective, it freed me from, like I said, the pressure of having to be rich and have this house and have this car, because I've seen people with all of those things and be miserable.
You're a chef.
Yeah,
You're cooking a lot of soul food, so on and so forth.
sure.
Like, how do you change? Like, a lot of that shit is killing us, bro.
Absolutely.
How do we change the culture, like, from a culinary perspective? And what are you doing to, like, help with that shit? Because heart disease is killing us.
It's real. It's
right?
real. So
we have the lowest life expectancy of any race. Black men, we have the lowest life expectancy.
yeah. So I think that there's two perspectives to that. One, our children are our future, and I think that a lot of the things that become social norms are driven and pushed by the youth. And so what I've been doing over the last 8 years is I've been a part of this organization called the McKinney Foundation, who is trying to eradicate childhood obesity in the city of Detroit through education, entrepreneurship, and health and wellness. And we do cooking seminars and all these different things throughout the city. And like I said, I've been doing that for years. I most recently joined the board of a company or a nonprofit called Big Green, who's spearheaded by Kimball Musk. And I'm actually on their board, and we're going to be doing some really big things coming soon in regards to just getting some of this urban gardening going on in these schools and all of those different things. And I think that that's one aspect to it. The other aspect to it is that my dad's a preacher, so I grew up in the church, and there's a church culture of that nobody ever really addresses, right? So growing up in the black church, you hear about like, you shouldn't be drinking, you shouldn't be smoking, you shouldn't be fornicating, you shouldn't be dating, all these things you shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah.
But nobody ever talks about gluttony, and everybody's fat.
Yeah.
Everybody's overweight, everybody's dying from heart attacks, everybody's dying from high blood pressure, and nobody's talking about it.
That's a fact.
Nobody's talking about it. And afterwards, after he preaches the word, it's going to be a bake sale with pound cake and cobbler and banana pudding and all of those sugary things. That's the reason why we all dying. And it's so funny because, like, we'll have a bake sale and sell every sugary cake in the world, and then get up the next Sunday and be like, the devil is attacking my body. And it's like, not really. You know what I'm saying? Not for real.
Yeah.
So I set out to create this new concept of how African Americans eat. It's called New Soul. And New Soul is a concept that I came up with probably about 4 years ago. And I'm actually writing, I'm rapping The Sexy Breakfast now. It's a cookbook I've been working on for the last few years, but I'm also simultaneously, as I do recipe development for the Sexy Breakfast, for Savannah Blue, I'm also doing some recipe development for the New Soul cookbook. So here's kind of the concept. I really want to just go to people's house in poor neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods, knock on their door, and just walk in their house, hi, I'm Chef Chris, and open their refrigerator and being like, okay, this is what they're eating. Yeah. This is what we eat. This is what's in our refrigerator. Part of it's gonna be funny. Because you're gonna see the difference in just the approach of how people eat, what they consider dinner. In a sense. But then part of it's gonna be an awareness of, wow, we are literally living in a food desert in the city of Detroit, where there's only a handful of places where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables. When you don't even talk about grains, you can't find bulgur wheat or farro or, and you might be able to find some quinoa now. That's like only been popular for the last 15 years, and it's just now becoming something that they're eating in the urban communities. But even that's like, quinoa. So these are things that are going to allow us the nutritional density to actually give us a well-rounded diet. It's not that black people don't particularly care to eat well. It's just they don't have enough knowledge of ingredient mix nor selection to choose from to be able to eat much different. You got cabbage, green beans, broccoli, cauliflower, greens. That's about the extent of it. You know what I'm saying? You got, I mean, I might have missed a few, but it's not a whole lot. But there's a whole slew of other vegetables and grains and different proteins and different ways to approach cooking that is just not accessible to us. So with all of our access that we have in every other aspect, I'm going to start demanding that some of these places that service our community start carrying some of these items that provide a healthier lifestyle for the people that want to do better. And I do that through my initiatives with my nonprofits and using their platform to kind of spread the word, and also utilizing what I do with Savannah Blue from a creativity perspective to get people to think like, wow, like this is a, you know, very southern-based place, yet they have some flavor profiles that fit in my vegan lifestyle, that fit in my, you know, healthier, you know, driven mindset. So that's just, those are just a few things that I plan on doing.
Now you said you want to like demand this for people that want to do better.
Yeah.
How do we get more people in our community to want to do better?
There's a philosophical perspective to that, and then there's a realistic perspective to that. I think the philosophical piece of it is just by trying to build awareness on the ground floor. Like I said, the cooking seminars, by talking with the youth, getting in schools, getting kids coming home talking about it. Hopefully their parents become more interested in it. I do cooking seminars at grocery stores in the inner city. I, you know, shake people's hands. I talk about it. I mean, so there's the ground level stuff. And then the other piece of it, the more realistic perspective is using our platforms. Like we know a lot of people that got a lot of influence. And all it takes is for them to bless something and it becomes popular.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So as opposed to, you know, maybe promoting some vodka or some, you know, sort of alcohol or something like that.
More a different lifestyle.
I'm gonna start promoting, and you know, some people are doing that. You know, you get the, you know, what Nipsey was trying to do with the Dr. Sebi documentary, what the Locks are doing with their juice bars. Like there are people that are, you know, respected in black culture, whether it's in rap or music or entertainment, that have a voice, that do have a healthier lifestyle perspective. I just think it's using our resources and getting people that are in our circle to get on board with it and use their platform to build awareness.
Yeah.
You know?
Now let's talk about the sexy breakfast.
Sure.
So when we first met, you were talking about this book, and I thought it was fire, right? And I think it was something around like helping men understand how to cook so that they could like better take care of the women in their lives. Is that it? Or
that's half of the perspective.
Okay.
The perspective is it's men being more thoughtful so that they can use food as an impetus to build love in their relationship. So for example, right, like I'm a food guy. Like that's what I know. Like, you know, I attempted at singing, I attempted at other things, but like I'm a chef. That's what I do well. So, you know, there's something to be said about, look, you ever seen the movie Love Jones?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is sort of the introduction of the book. And there's a scene in the movie, obviously, when Darius Love Hall is cooking her the omelet with the fresh fruit or whatever, right? So he's in the house cooking the omelet and the fresh fruit and all of that good stuff. And I remember being a kid and walking into the house and seeing my mother and my sisters watch it and just melting all over the couch. Oh my God, he doing this, he doing that. And I was just sort of like, he made, because you know, at that time I was trying to get my little cook on, so I'm like, he made a cheese omelet and some fruit. He didn't do nothing spectacular. And then they informed me like, well, it's really not about the, you know, the omelet. They was at her place. Like he got up at her place. Didn't wake her, went downstairs, whipped something up. So she woke up at her place, this dude with his shirt off, cooking in her kitchen. Like, are you kidding me? And I thought about it like, wow, it was more of the thoughtfulness behind what he did that really like affected them, not necessarily the food. So I started really looking at it from a perspective, okay, there's a lot of brothers out there that are in relationships that are failing, and it takes so many different things to make your relationship work. It takes communication, it takes compromise, it takes so many different things to actually make it all work. I'm just saying that this is just a tool. It ain't gonna fix your marriage, but for the men out there that want the girl, and he don't really know how to get over the hump. You know, he like her. You know, he done tried the flowers, cars, and candy, took her to the movies, bought her a bag. But he really trying to like get her over the hump. Yeah. This is a book that you can get, and it's gonna be very cool food, very super sexy food. Something that when you make it for her, she gonna go back and tell her friends like, oh my God, he made this, 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 and that. And then what it does is, at least is my perspective, I think that most women want to feel special. They want to feel like the man that they're with or the guy that's interested in them took special care or thought enough about them to take an extra effort to do a thing. Yeah. And again, the sexy breakfast is just allowing you to take food as an impetus to make them have that feeling. Fire. You know what I mean?
Nice. And what's next for you, man, as far as Chef McClendon goes? With cooking, with restaurants, with books, with television shows.
Really?
What are you trying to do?
Really, I really want to launch the Sexy Breakfast and give it its proper due. So I think that I must probably spend the rest of the year just finishing that strong. I've been talking about it for so long, and I'm sure you know as well as anybody is that to do something well, to execute it well, takes a lot of pieces. And I'm just not the kind of person that's gonna half-ass anything. Yep. And if it ain't right, I'm not gonna do it.
Facts.
And it hasn't been the way that I wanted to be from a editorial perspective. So there's a lot of like editing and photography issues that I'm having. But, you know, I feel like when it's God's time, the right people will present themselves, and I'll be able to present it the right way. And the movement of the Sexy Breakfast, which will be the podcast, the vlog, everything that comes along with it, this type of dialogue about love and relationships, I'll be all a part of it, and it'll come at the appropriate time.
My last question. On this journey, what's the best piece of advice or the biggest lesson you've learned that you can kind of share with our audience? And who'd that come from?
That's a good one.
I know Worldwide Western told you a thing or two.
Yeah, Wes, that's interesting because the quote actually is by Wes, who's a client that I had for many years, and he's like an uncle, he's family. He told me, he set me down one day and was like, Chris, you got all of the tools to be a superstar. And I'm gonna give you the one piece of advice that's gonna make you a superstar. And then he paused. And I waited. And he says, at the moment you start thinking about other people and not yourself is when you become successful. When your success exceeds your own success. When it's about other people, that's when you'll be successful. And I thought about it. And I didn't really get it at first. But once I started running my own restaurant, once I started really getting into the groove with these clients, once I really started doing things with these nonprofits, started realizing that everything that I do now, everything that I love, everything that makes me who I am, is about building up other people. It freed me from the pressure of feeling like maybe I should do this or this or that, because I'm successful when I can look at an employee that didn't know something, and then now they know it, and they're able to go off and get a job because I taught them something. That's success for me. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily from a monetary perspective is what he was talking about. He was talking about true success in your heart. When you think about other people and you see other people win because of something that you helped them do, that's when you're successful. So once I realized that, freed everything up for me, man. So that's what I would say.
My man. Appreciate you coming through, bro.
My guy.
All right.
Yes, sir.